choppy on my side. Oh, fuck.
No worries. GM, everyone. We're back with another Touch Grass episode. We're back again with Will. We shot an episode, I think, a couple of months back, talking about marketing, branding. A lot has happened since then, and we want to have Will back on and tell the story about movement once again and what they're cooking. Well, how are you? New hairstyle. What's going on?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Just on this Save the Movement tour. So just been kind of going around the world, talking to people, meeting them where they're at, and showing them that the movement is here. We're thriving, we're surviving, and the movement's here to stay. And thank you guys for having me back on. It's great to see you both again.
Of course, man. Last time we talked a lot about like marketing, philosophy, branding. How's the new role treating you? How are you liking it at Move Industries?
It's different, man. It's a learning curve for sure. I mean, Rob and I were approached by the team and by the builders in the community to kind of, usher in this new future of the movement. And, I'm incredibly humbled and grateful for the opportunity. To say it's easy would be a lie. It's definitely difficult, but look, at the end of the day, you rise to the challenge that's in front of you, and I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity and to have someone like Tarab, leading the charge and at my side. I couldn't be more comfortable, with a
Yeah,
co-founder and a partner like him.
yeah. How was the experience for you when the community was rallying behind you and Thorab publicly on Twitter? Uh, what was that experience like? Like you said, it was humbling. Like, talk to me about like the emotional side of it. How was that?
I think I've always kind of had this mentality of being the first community member. And, Tarab and I have always run, very much parallel with one another. Like I've referred to us as kind of like a helix where everything that I was doing was complementing what he did, and everything he did complemented what I did. And so when they kind of approached us and rallied behind us, it was just validating of the work that we had done over the past 2.5 to 2+ years, where everything from the first day that I joined was about the community. Everything he had ever done from the first day was for the builders and for the ecosystem. And so to have people that we'd never met in person, validate that and amplify that and celebrate that was, it's been an experience to say the least. And I take it very seriously, right? Like great power comes great responsibility. We
Yeah,
we don't take this lightly at all.
yeah, for sure. And I want to double down on that. We talked about community, we talked about builders. I've heard a lot of rumors here and there. Like a lot of people were trying to poach movement employees. I think a lot of them have said no. Like I don't even know anyone that moved out. How's team sentiment right now?
I think it's been great. One of the things that I think the first people that approached us was the team. That was the first group of people that came to Tarab and I was the team itself. And I think that when you go through something like we've all been through together, there's an element of bonding that happens. And I think sentiment's never been higher amongst the team. Obviously, there's a degree of uncertainty and a degree of fear, and I'm empathetic of that, as is Tarab. We make sure that we're very available and communicating as much as we can with the team to the updates and how things are progressing. But I think both of us were also a little taken aback by just how much, the team believed in us and you know, asked us to take on this arduous journey moving into the future in this next chapter of the movement. And shout out to the team, man. We got the best team in the industry. We've talked about this before. I couldn't ask for a better group of guys and gals to usher into this new chapter of the movement.
That's awesome. One of the things like I'm really curious about, telling your side of the story is really important in what's happened. Once everything the story was unfolding, what were like the conversations internally? How do you guys were responding to this kind of, so many things were coming out. It's kind of panic, fear. What are like the conversations internally, and how did you start approaching it? Okay, all these are all the problems. How do we start, problem solving mode? How do you guys were approaching that and responding internally?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I mean, look, it's like we had a lot of plans on how we were going to move into the future already. Like we as a team had already been cooking in the background on the future of movement in general. And I think there was a degree of like, look, y'all, like, this is either an opportunity to succeed or an opportunity to fail. And I think everybody on the team agreed, like, you get one shot in life, like the one that we have with movement. And we've seen great highs, right? So we know that the value is there. We know that the opportunity is there. We know that the potential is there. And so I think despite the fear of the moment and the uncertainty, it was kind of just a moment of like, look, let's just double down. Like we have the elements, we have the players, we have the ideas, we have the community, we have the builders, we have some of the best backers in the industry that you could ask for. You know, through the highs and lows of life, you just take what you can get, and if you get lemons, you make lemonade. And so I think that's kind of the overall sentiment of the team. It was like, look, we don't have an option, so let's just get after it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you want to talk a little bit about the different, like the roles, responsibility split between you and Torab, like who's doing what?
Yeah, so when we were kind of looking at how we would approach this, I think we just looked into our strengths, right? Tarab is an amazing strategist. He's an amazing executor. He has a great vision for how this industry can improve. And so he's very much just leading on the executive level, all of the decisions that need to be made about how we progress this business moving forward as it relates to the network. Tarab is spearheading it. We're all behind him. That he's our captain, you know? As it relates to, where my skills lie, like I've always been kind of on the brand side, always been on the community building side, kind of looking at how we can differentiate ourselves from different players in the industry, and how do we make this a global brand, right? Like I've always looked at the movement as being bigger than ourselves. It's an idea it's bigger than just a network. It's bigger than just a chain, right? Like it's a global movement. So how can we break out of this, echo chamber of CT and really make this into what I believe can be a global movement that transcends, just a company. How do we turn this into a conglomerate, And so that's kind of the way that I've been approaching things. Obviously on this world tour, making sure that people kind of see the vision and understand where we're going, and creating strategies and alternative, ideas that differentiate us. And then we have Ali, who's driving things on the strategy side, making sure that the ecosystem is whole and supported. And then we have Young on the technical side as our CTO, making sure that our network is as performant as any other chain, and that we're in the game, that the math is mathing, and that we're competing at the highest level. And then we have amazing operators that are supporting all these visions, like Colin on the institutional side, Carmen on the PR side, Chris on the product marketing side, Imran supporting on the APAC marketing and the global hubs and the ambassador programs. We got Joe cooking in APAC. We got Rahat and Cheyenne on the DevRel side, making sure that our builders are supported as much as possible. Wiz and Grant making sure the ecosystem is fully supported. Zen on the designs. We got Merck and Paco in the community. I mean, we have just this incredibly talented team. I didn't even go into all the different engineers and the data analysts that we're working with, but we just have a team of really high caliber subject matter experts that we complement each other's skills, and we trust each other when, these hands can't code. So I have to make sure that there's a degree of trust that I know my engineers are going to cook, and that they trust me that I'm going to grow the brand.
100%. I mean, shout out to everyone and the movement team because it's very hard to go through that kind of uncertainty period. And I mean, even some things unexpected come and you're like, what the hell's happening? And so shout out to them. But also you on the marketing side, that's your like natural element. I mean, in the last part, we talked about if you lost that creative mind, what would you do? I think I know. Do you miss it? Do you miss being in your natural element?
A bit. I think going back to the last podcast that we had, right? It's like, where do you see inspiration, and how do you moving forward? Like, I'm inspired more than ever, right? Like I'm working in things that I never really expected myself to be doing. And with that comes a new level of inspiration. There's the constant flow of new information, and I'm constantly educating myself on things that need to get done that fall into this new role that I have. And so, yeah, there's a degree to which, I wish we could go back to the way things were, but I have an amazing marketing team. Like, I trust this team as much as I would trust myself to get the work done. This is part of the reason that we brought someone like Imran on, is like, at a certain point in time, my role was going to change regardless, right? Like, as we scaled as a team, I was going to have to become a little more hands off on the day-to-day marketing either way. And I think I was really grateful to be mentored in the way that you have to pass the torch at a certain time, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think I'll always want to just be in the trenches of social media, cooking on content, but I still am, right? Like, I still cook with the team on what we're working on, but they're incredibly talented and I trust them implicitly. So, you know, they got it handled.
And well, during this transition, like, what are the changes that have happened with the team in terms of, maybe operating, maybe something that the community, the builders don't see? Like, what are the kind of changes that have happened within the team structure, like with Move Industries moving forward?
That's a good question. I think one of the ways that things have shifted a bit is that, you know, before the transition occurred, I was running a much more operational oriented role in terms of like how I was coordinating marketing in the various teams. So for me personally, I've stepped much more into like, an overarching role and kind of driving like more of an overall strategy and then passing that strategy down and letting the team kind of operationalize it. I think for Tarab as well, right? Like he was very focused on BD and very focused on DeFi. And now that man is literally driving everything. So, I think for the two of us, the world has dramatically changed. And, I think Tarab is doing a phenomenal job. And I think be commended by everybody, like in the way that he's really risen to this occasion. For the remainder of the team, I think we've tried to keep it really business as usual, right? Like we tried not to rock the boat too much. I think Imran has really stepped up on the marketing side. It was always my plan to kind of level him in this way, but it happened a little sooner and in a different way than we expected. And I think like, overall across leadership, we've all had to kind of step up and drive a little bit more than anticipated. But yeah, we tried to keep it as painless and as changeless as possible for the rest of the team, right? Like we don't want to shock and awe too much. So
Yeah,
operationally speaking, it's somewhat similar.
yeah. Who came up with the name Move Industries? That's a bit of you right there, I'd assume.
So it's funny that you say that. Move Industries originally had a different intent. It ended up becoming kind of like the brand image kind of tentative, movement future name. Originally it was just going to be like a side project that was going to support the network. So it was a concept that I had earlier when we were put in the situation that we were put in and we had to come up with like this like forward facing name. It just felt right. Like a movement, a global movement, something that moves, industries forward. Move Industries just kind of felt like an appropriate name. And so it came with a bit of reluctance at first. We
Yeah,
were playing with the idea of like moving CTO and it felt like it was a bit too mimetic for the seriousness of the situation. So I just kind of said, look, Rob, we have these brand assets ready. We have this name. If you like it, we can use it. And he was like, let's ride.
yeah. Maybe that's the title of this video, KJ. Move CTO. Uh, it's like Woody from Toy Story. Yeah, we run the Aptos playbook back again. Um, and then okay, Will. Back on a more serious question. Um, Usually when you look at like legacy companies, like you look at, I was watching Uber, like the Super Pumped series, and one thing that I've noticed out of all these like entrepreneurship web series or whatever, like stories you call it, whenever there's a change in leadership, new leadership comes up with a new thesis, or they try to form a new vision. How are you and Tarab thinking about that? Like, are you still going on the old thesis, like we still believe in the original mission and we're continuing it, or it's more like we have a community, we have a set of builders that trust us, we need to do everything possible to move forward, and we may shift the thesis, or it's more community owned now?
That's a great question. I think we have three core pillars that remain fundamentally unchanged and will remain unchanged. We have the Move programming language, which is just, I believe the future of this industry, right? If we didn't believe that, we wouldn't be building using it. And we have two other pillars that will remain unchanged as well. We have our community, and we have our builders. Those three elements will forever be at the center of everything we do. There may come some shifts in the way that we approach how we problem solve. Now that Tarab and I are in the decision-making seats, there are changes that we probably would have made, that we probably will make. But look, the thesis was the same before, right? We're a community-first, builder-first project using the Move programming language, and we're trying to help onboard the future of this industry and bring, the world on chain. And I think we share that mission with probably every major protocol in this industry as well, right? We're all competing with these centralized systems of the past. So I think that vision remains intact. How we approach that, we're kind of laying the groundwork for right now. If you guys have seen on our social media, we've been building in public more. So I think originally one of our strengths was this hype driven marketing approach. I think on the marketing side, the way that we've shifted that is we've leaned more into like an action marketing driven approach, which is if we say something, it's immediately backed by action, because we have a lot of trust to rebuild, and we need to show people that like this isn't just smoke and mirrors. These aren't just empty words. Like it's I say this frequently now. It's not about what you say, it's about what you do. And so now whenever we say something, we do something as well. I think that's probably the biggest shift that we've had, is that we're just communicating everything that we can publicly, like short-term roadmaps, long-term roadmaps. The decks that I was showing to our investors and exchanges, I showed to our community, to our builders, so that they felt like they were a part of this future with us. And I feel like that's part of the reason that people have begun to see that Tarab and I, can handle the task in front of us, because we do have a strong idea of how we can carry this mantle into the future. And I'm excited about some of the stuff that I can't speak about everything, but I'm pretty excited.
Yeah. I mean, I've been noticing it as well. In the early days, even when we used to work together, and some of the content you guys used to be cooking, it used to be like, oh my God, something big's happening. Moment is, it's all right now. It's like slight shift, but I think you still are doing a little of what was, kind of what made movement in the early days. And what I'm like, one of the things I want to ask, and I think community would be interested as well, what are some of the biggest lessons learned from going through what you had gone through, and something that you can apply in the future and what's coming next, not only for yourself, the Rab, and the entire team, and in general? Like, I think these things, other teams can also face, other builders can also face, and other communities can also face. Maybe that can help them as well. So what are some of the biggest lessons for you, personally, and also like in general, that you would kind of highlight for the broader community?
I think some of the biggest lessons that I've been learning, and I spoke about this a little bit in this episode as well, is just this idea of like trusting the people, like the subject matter experts on your team. Like, I can't do everything. Tarab can't do everything. There's a limit to our strengths, and we know where our weaknesses are, right? Like I say this constantly. I can't. These hands were not blessed with the ability to code. So if I were to try to micromanage the engineering team, that would be a disaster in the making. And I think one of the biggest things is like when you build out a team and you have a mission and you guys are driving something together, like trusting the people that you've brought in to do their job implicitly, right? And like trust but verify, obviously, like there needs to be checks and balances. And we're working on how we do that right now. Like, how do we, update our governance so that, everybody is kind of checking each other's work and maintaining this like symbiotic relationship between departments. But I think that's really the biggest thing, is that, we have a strong degree of trust, and that's really important. If we're trying to show people that they can trust us, we have to be able to trust each other implicitly. And I think that's something that every team should really like embody, right? Like if you're, a technical co-founder and you hire a marketer, you got to trust them to cook. And this is something that I hear a lot of teams complain about, where they feel like they get stifled and that they don't get to kind of spread their wings. That's a luxury that I've had at this company where I've been able to take risks and kind of spread my wings and shoot for the stars in many ways in the way that we approach our marketing. And so that's kind of probably the biggest lesson is just, trusting the people that you have next to you in the trenches. You gotta trust your trudging buddies.
That makes sense. Any lessons as like shifting to leadership that you'd like to share?
Know
I
what
think
you don't
more
know. Go
more
ahead.
like on the approach of next man up approach, like something's happening, like I see this all the time in basketball, like someone, the main leader, is not scoring and you have to step up. Even if you're on the bench or if you're on the sidelines, you have to step up. So maybe can you speak about that, uh, and what you've learned, like kind of.
Yeah. I think it's a similar answer. I mean, it's a bit different in the sense that it's more just like knowing what you don't know. Like for example, I was put in a situation of like kind of building this new structure and overseeing like this rebuild and that's not something I've done before. So understanding that like this is a new terrain for me, and so the people that I'm working with to see this through, like I have to ask for help. And it's okay to be uncomfortable and it's okay to not know what you're doing. Like, and the important thing is to find people, advisors, mentors, peers, folks that have been through this kind of thing before, and to lean on their expertise to help you understand what you're doing. I think I've learned a lot in this process and now I feel a lot more comfortable in the role that I have. But early on, like, you know, I was thrust into a situation that I had no experience with. And this isn't the first time I've been there, right? Like I've changed industries multiple times. This was very similar when I started working at the Senate. There's a learning curve where you got to trust people who have gone through this before. You got to like study the past. You were talking about the Uber documentary, right? Like these things have happened in other industries where there's changing of guard. And so looking to those, inspirations, there's a great, I think it was, I'm paraphrasing, but it was like Aristotle was writing Socrates and he's like, dude, how are you so fucking goated? And he was like, if I appear great, it's because I stand on the shoulders of giants. Right. Which implies that like it's not necessarily that he's great. It's that he was learned by great men and great women about how to challenge and how to build a better future. And I think Rob and I have been really reliant on these kinds of ideas, like trusting the people that are around us that have more experience than us to help guide us through this trial and tribulation. And through that, we're gonna come through stronger than ever.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about like rebuilding trust and how that experience has been. Like, maybe the first question there is: did any builders leave the ecosystem that you had to sort of get back? Like, what was the state of the ecosystem maybe 2 months ago versus now?
Well, first of all, I think we maintained the vast majority of teams, which I'm very proud of. I think we had a couple people leave, which I wish them the best, right? Like, and I understand the situation, and that's kind of the way that I've approached it with the community and the builders, is that like trust is something you earn, not something you ask for, right? And so when I would speak to the builders, when I'd speak to the community, I tell them, look, I don't need you to trust me. I'm going to earn your trust back through my actions, not through my words. And so I would show them what my plans are. Like, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is what we're going to be doing. And my job is not to stop people from leaving. My job is to bring them back. My job is to win back their trust through action and through plans and through consistency, as is with Tarab. And so there were some people at first that I think were really on the fence. And we had a lot of folks, especially in the community, like really double back, like who at first were very critical of us. And then we're like, you know what? Well, there was someone on Twitter that like apologized and was like, I'm sorry for my attitude. I'm really grateful for you guys. Those are the kinds of things that really keep me going is, when folks who are on the fence or who doubted us come back around and say, you know what? I'm going to give these guys a chance. They're really trying here. And I think that's really what it comes down to, right? It's like, all you have in this world is your word. And I've never
Yeah.
broken it for anyone. I've consistently been an honest man throughout my career. I walk a path of radical honesty. And now Tarab, and I believe Tarab is the exact same way. And now we have a chance to show the world that, and show them what we're made of, and you know, it's a
Yeah.
trial that we're ready for.
The
Yeah, 100%.
is
I
the
think.
world tour, sorry, KJ, just one more from me. Well, is the world tour that you're on right now, is that also part of the trust rebuilding sort of thought process? Like, hey, let's just go around the world, meet all our builders, meet the community. How did this world tour come into play? What was the thought process? What are the goals? And if anyone in the community is listening, like, hey, how can they sort of also be part of the world tour that's coming up?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's exactly what it's about. Like when I first started, I mean, you guys were uniquely, positioned to understand this. Like we were mostly working off of social capital. Like when I went to Korea Blockchain Week, my second month working at Movement, nobody knew who Movement was. This is 2+ years ago at this point. Or I guess it's just around 2 months ago or 2 years ago because it was August. We
This
didn't.
is
No
the
one
first
knew.
time. This is the first time you launched the iconic uh, movement merch, right? Like the green
Yes.
and yellow. Yeah.
Yeah, so when we first went there, no one knew the Movement brand, and I wanted to get us on various events. I had a background in entertainment and in content creation, and so I was offering people film and photography services to get our logo onto their events, right? And so that got my foot in the door, and then I was just meeting with people where they were at, hearing what their concerns were as builders, getting in the room, like understanding the needs and concerns of. And this is very much like grassroots community organizing for a campaign. Like you go and knock on people's doors and you ask like, hey, what's the issue that's facing your community today? And so it was the same approach when Tarab and I were thinking like, how do we start to rebuild this trust and show people that we're here for the future? We decided it was important for us to go around the world and meet with people where they were at. So we went to Hong Kong, we went to Singapore, we met with some of the folks who help run this industry. We met with some of the people who are our biggest and most important backers. And then we went and met with the community in those locations, met with the builders there, went to ECC and did the same. I had some great times with the gorillas, working with our community, meeting with some of our investors, meeting with other ecosystems and kind of like, introducing myself to them. And the feedback was really validating, having other builders in different ecosystems commending the work that Tarab and I were doing, expressing interest in working with us. We had an event with Google Cloud, so having those kind of big institutional backers like them was really validating as well. And just growing the new community, right? Like we're not done in any sense of the word. There are still people all over the world who've never heard of Movement. And so on top of like maintaining and building this trust with the folks that we already know, part of this was also like introducing this concept to folks who had never heard of us before. And the trip kind of culminates with a trip to DC, obviously with the government background that I have, and helping work on some of this legislation and working with some of the folks who, drive the blockchain changes that are going to happen at a legislative level, making sure that, we're having a positive impact on the way that this industry is regulated as well. It's been a long trip. I'm ready to go home. But it's been very validating, and I'm grateful for all the people that we've met on the road. And it won't be the last time. We'll do another one. I just need a break. Once I get back home, I'm gonna need a day or two to rest because I've been doing 6 a.m. to
Where
2
are you
a.m.
headed
days
next?
for about a month and a half.
Where are you headed next?
Where am I headed next? So it's kind of up in the air. I'm definitely going to DC. I'm trying to find some time to get to Portugal. So if folks are listening to this and I do end up there, I'd love to meet with you. It just depends on, I have a couple meetings that I might have to get back for. You know how these trips go, man. Things are moving so much in flux. Um, I really live by a day-to-day ethos, like I obviously plan ahead, but I could get hit by a meteor tomorrow. So today I'm focused on today.
100%. So, Will, we talked about the experiences from what has happened, your lessons learned, how we're moving forward. One of the things I want to talk about, you said building trust again. Like, Movement has this, hallmark community, one of the best communities that you guys have built. But there's been a lot of, tension that is still there. I believe like the move drop being delayed, and that kind of can be frustrating to a lot of people And I mean, you also said this, like actions speak louder than words. The next time I'm gonna talk publicly is when Move Drop is live, right? So that's cool. I want to ask, like, there's so many reasons for anyone in crypto. Like when something like this happens, I can just move on and pick another chain to play with. How do you kind of keep these guys that you have kind of earned, right? Not given, earned their trust and build this awesome community? How do you keep them sticking around for what's next? And what is next for movement? And what are you most excited about?
I think part of this has been the short-term roadmaps and really bringing them in, better understanding what our positioning is and what our plans for the future are. Like I said, we're building in public, and I think that's the best way that we can possibly maintain this community because that's how we started. Like when movement first began, everything that we were doing, I was just educating people to the Move programming language, setting up the guilds, setting up Parthenon, building out roles in Discord so that people felt heard, seen, and respected. And I think that's the same approach that we're taking today, just doubling down and amplifying these same, you know, um, engagement areas. So, for example, we're going to be rolling out these regional hubs and working more directly with local communities across the world. And for folks that are interested in this, you can go find more information at the Move Industries Twitter page. We're rolling out the hubs. We're rolling out some ambassador programs. We're rolling out creator programs. We're working directly with the guilds in the ways that we can support them and what they're trying to do. And I think that's really just the best that we can do at this point, right? Is just communicate our plans, have an open door policy. Folks have been setting meetings with me quite regularly, and I think we're also very receptive to the feedback, right? So whenever I get on calls, I tell people if I'm not doing something well, if you disagree with my approach, tell me. Like, don't hold back. Don't feel that you can't speak your mind. If you feel that we're not leveling to the degree that we should be, hold us accountable. And I think that degree of honesty and vulnerability has shown our core community and our builders we mean what we say. We're here to stay. We're going to do everything in our power to make this work. And if we wouldn't be here, you know?
That's awesome, Will. I think we're on time. Maybe we usually end these with, your number one advice for someone, but I don't think there's something you can
Well,
you can prepare for.
I think a great clip would be, well, what's the number one thing that you're excited about movement, like short term? Like what should the community be really, really, really excited about?
I have three things: Parthenon, the regional hubs, and the ambassador programs we're going to be rolling out. I'm really excited about how all these three things are going to complement each other. And I speak to this as it relates to how it's going to benefit the community and how it's going to benefit the builders. I think that we are building and have been building a self-sustaining flywheel in the way that we approach how we build for these different, communities that have different needs. And I'm very excited to see how it plays out. And I can't wait for you guys to see how it goes as well. But look, we're a global movement, and so we're building for the world, and that brings me a lot of joy and a lot of excitement. So stay tuned. We're cooking.
Also, well, again, thank you so much for your time. I think your side of the story must be heard. So thank you so much for your time, and super excited for what you guys do next.
Of course, man, and we're always here. I would love to come back and to continue to share the story with you. And I think you had mentioned something, KG, that I would love to end on as well, which is like, any words of advice. I personally don't have any. But what I would say is, what helps me get through it is just if you're building something that's bigger than yourself, remind yourself that if you're building something greater than you, then something greater than you will assist you on that path. There's a degree to which like a lot of what we're doing is outside of our element, and I have to trust that there's a power greater than me that's going to guide me through this trial and tribulation. And so I would just say
Yep.
to anybody that's dealing with like, any type of controversy in life, any type of suffering, any type of difficulty, if you're trying to do something good for the world, or if you're trying to do something good for your family, or if you're trying to level up, trust that the universe is if you put that intention out there, do your 50%, the universe will put the other 50% in, because you deserve it. And I love you and you're incredible. And thank you guys for having me on your show. Make sure you
Yes,
like, comment, and subscribe below. They do this for you. They're helping educate the industry. Just show them some love. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys.
That's the perfect end to the show. Thanks so much for coming on, Will. We'll have you next
Thanks
time.
so much.
I got your back. Much love, y'all.